Good afternoon, I'm Lin Li Fu. We are following developments of the situation in Ukraine. Reports say a Russian military convoy about 64 kilometers long north of Kyiv is moving towards Ukraine's capital. Satellite images released by U.S. space technology company Maxar show that the convoy in the outskirts of Kyiv is substantially longer than the 27-kilometer reported earlier. Maxar says the large military convoy consisted of armored vehicles, tanks, towed artillery, and other logistical vehicles. Meanwhile, SpaceX Starlink satellite internet terminals have arrived in Ukraine. Ukraine's Vice Prime Minister thanked SpaceX's billionaire Chief Executive Officer Elon Musk in a tweet, days after asking for help. The terminals look like home satellite television dishes and can provide relatively fast internet service. Ukrainian officials said Russian rocket attacks have killed dozens of people in the eastern city of Kharkiv. Residents also came under intense artillery. This is an apparent change of Russian tactics after a slower advance over days of fighting than many expected. In response, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has called for a no-fly zone to stop Russian bombardment. Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S. says Russia has used a vacuum bomb in Ukraine, also known as thermobaric weapons. The bombs are high-powered explosives that use the atmosphere itself as part of the explosion. They are among the most powerful non-nuclear weapons ever developed.
They
For
use
more, let's
the vacuum bomb today, which is actually prohibited by Geneva Convention. So, the devastation that Russia is trying to inflict on Ukraine is large, but we Ukrainians will resist. We are defending our home. We do not have any other option. We will not get tired. We will not stop. We will not surrender. We will continue defending our home. And it's not only our very motivated and capable military, not only our armed forces, but everyone.
For more, let's speak with the Straits Times' U.S. Bureau Chief Nirmal Ghosh. Nirmal, Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S. and human rights groups in Washington are accusing Russia of attacking Ukrainians with cluster bombs and vacuum bombs. Do we have any confirmation on that?
I would say no 100% independent confirmation as yet, and Russia, of course, denies it. But this is, of course, the worry. It wouldn't really surprise anyone because this is the big worry. Russia has a lot more firepower, and it is quite capable of using it. It did that before in October 1999 when it hit the Chechen capital Grozny with a wave of ballistic missiles. The army was having a hard time then, just as they are in this case. So they just finished the job with missiles, killing a lot of people. Market was destroyed. So the worry is Vladimir Putin will up the intensity to, one, show that he is not going to stop, and second, and more important, he must be feeling pressure to do it soon. He's running out of time before this drags on and his army's morale suffers. He does not have much time. Russia has already been hit economically in a short space of time. It is becoming a pariah state. It has triggered a major foreign policy shift in Germany and the whole of Europe. So what is there left to lose now? And they could well use much heavier weaponry. And as you mentioned, there's that big convoy heading to the capital.
Now, President Zelensky has appealed for a no-fly zone to stop Russia's bombardment. What are you hearing from the White House?
The White House is not in favor of that because it could turn into a trap. How do you enforce a no-fly zone? At some point, you may have to enforce it by shooting a Russian plane down, for instance, and that would be a very dangerous escalation. The US is trying not to be drawn in deeper. It's trying to play it cool, not rising to the bait of Vladimir Putin's threats and remarks about nuclear readiness. The president said Americans should not fear a nuclear war. We saw today that the US will expel 12 intelligence operators, they call them, from the Russian mission to the UN for engaging in espionage, they say. That's an asymmetrical response. It is not saber-rattling, which should further inflame the situation. This is a good thing given the circumstances. Vladimir Putin, as we said, is finding it heavy going. He's feeling severe economic heat. Civil unrest could well rise in the days ahead. He may have considerably overreached, and now the worry is he won't or can't back down and will launch an all-out assault which could destroy the city. So the US sees it as important not to match his rhetoric, which would be like feeding the cycle. And a no-fly zone enforced by NATO would be very risky. So as of now, it is not on the cards.
Thank you very much for that update, Nirmal Ghosh, our US Bureau Chief. With shock waves rippling across the globe from the crisis, what are the implications for Asia? Earlier, Straits Times' foreign editor Bhagyashree Garika discussed this during a special roundtable on the Ukraine crisis. Veteran diplomat Prof Kishore Mahbubani says the UN General Assembly has been failing by design in the Ukraine crisis.
Kishore, you served as Singapore's ambassador at the United Nations. I'm sure you're following this very rare emergency session of the UN General Assembly that's going on in New York. Now, the UN was founded after World War II to prevent another war. Is it failing badly, Kishore?
Thank you, Bhagya. You're right. The UN has been weakened dramatically, but it has been weakened by design. You know, having been ambassador to the UN for 10 years, I know that multilateral institutions like the United Nations constrain great powers. And what is significant is that all great powers, it doesn't matter whether United States, Soviet Union, Russia, China, believe that a weaker United Nations is better than a stronger United Nations. And if you want proof of this, when it comes to selecting the Secretary General of the United Nations, if you have the potential of being a strong, dynamic chief executive officer who can lead the organization to greater heights, you're disqualified. But if you are weak, and if you understand what the great powers want, and you meet their needs, then you become UN Secretary General. Now, this is an open secret within the UN community. So when you say that the UN has been failing, it's been failing by design, and it's been failing because there has been a long-term process to undermine it. But at the same time, just to balance that, I'm very glad that this Russian invasion of Ukraine has made everyone now more aware of the UN Charter, of the principles of the UN Charter, which clearly forbid such invasions. And the fact that this principle is being reaffirmed as a result of Ukraine is a very positive development for the world.
And you can watch the full roundtable on the Straits Times' YouTube channel. In a show of solidarity against Russia, FIFA and UEFA have suspended Russia from all football competitions. This means the Russian men's team will not face Poland in their World Cup playoff matches next month, and the women's team have been banned from this summer's Euro 2022 competition. The most powerful bodies in football joined the International Olympic Committee in acting after days of growing protest. And as always, you can follow the latest updates and reactions on the Ukraine crisis at straitstimes.com. And remember to hit subscribe to stay informed. Do activate the bell icon on YouTube and you'll be notified the next time we go live. I'm Lin Li Fu. Thanks for watching.